So welcome to the undraftedfreeagent.com mid-major podcast. I'm your host, Chris McKee. First episode of season 2, joined by Toledo guard Keshaun Saunders. Keshaun, awesome to see you again, man.
Nice to see you too.
So just kind of wanted to go through last year, 21-9. I watched you quite a bit. Take me through the emotions of kind of the last few weeks of the season. You guys are red hot, kind of number 1 seed heading into the tournament, and just the emotions, the ups and downs of, going into that tournament and then eventually, falling short to Ohio in the MAC championship.
To be honest with you, it's hard to talk about the back end of the season and not bring up the season as a whole. I think last year, everybody was having so much fun, as a unit, that we didn't really care a lot about how like we were winning games and stuff like that. Like, we were obviously aware that we were winning games, but it got to a point where we kind of just went out there and played and had fun with it, and it resulted in win streaks and just winning the majority of our games. And when it got towards like the back end of the season, towards the postseason, not that we weren't focused before, but we definitely had the pressure, or just the intensity of feeling like we had to win, and to fall short against Ohio. That's a very well coached program, and they have good players as well. Obviously, it didn't go the way that we wanted to, but I could say personally for myself, I definitely learned a lot of lessons just by being in an environment, that has a lot of pressure on national TV. It's a lot at stake in those type of games, and it's definitely a learning experience that we can take into this year, and that's something that's been fueling us since the day that we lost that game. And we continue to bring it up every day in practice now. It's just our main motivator right now, because we know how good that we could potentially be. We already have gotten to that position. So it's more so of just exceeding that last year's results.
Could you bring yourself to watch Ohio play in the NCAA tournament, or is that like, I'm not even watching that?
I personally did not watch it. That's me personally. And that's more so just because of how much the loss hurt in the moment. But, it's no shade to them. It's a good program. They have good players, obviously, in Jason Preston. They have a lot of other players, freshmen of the year. And that was just my take on it.
So this year, you're literally the poster boy for Toledo basketball. Your picture on the season schedule kind of being pushed around all of social media. Your thoughts when you saw that?
Didn't think anything of it, really. It was actually a friend that told me that I was the face on it, because I was in class when it got posted. So it was definitely cool to see my face on there and to be advertised as such. But really, I didn't think anything of it, for real.
I think that's one of those things that's going to be a lot cooler maybe when you're my age, looking back on, hey, yeah.
Yeah.
I was a boy for 1 year at least,
Yeah.
So keep a few of those posters stuck in the basement or something somewhere.
I will. I most definitely will.
Yeah. So what type of role are you looking to play this year? Coming off the bench last year, obviously Toledo, some of the best guards in all of college basketball. So, have you discussed your role with your head coach, and, what's he spoken to you about, and kind of where do you see yourself fitting in this year?
He hasn't really spoken to me about it in terms of what we have going on in towards this year. We have a lot more depth than we have had in the previous years. And for me personally, I just want to play an important role, whatever that looks like. I know I can contribute in a variety of ways, and I'm ready to do whatever coach has asked of me to do. The one thing that me and him have discussed about in terms of me as a player is just my consistency, and knowing what he wants to expect from me on a day-to-day basis. So I think that is what I'm focusing on right now, just in terms of, building some better habits, just becoming more consistent of a basketball player, and trying to, just maximize my potential.
So talk to me about your relationship with Todd Kowalczyk, the head coach at Toledo. That's the guy that's recruited you. He's been there that whole time. That's got to be comforting to have coach stability when everywhere you look around you, coaches coming and going and that. Just talk to
Yeah.
me, one, your relationship with him, and two, how good does it feel to have stability amongst the coaching staff?
Honestly, what I can say about Coach K is that he's a very honest player. He's an honest coach. And he's gonna tell you exactly what it is. He's not gonna sugarcoat anything with you or say anything to, stroke your ego or anything like that. And that's what I most definitely appreciate about him more than anything. And I think that's what makes me trust him and, just have that bond with him as a player, because I know he's not going to tell me anything to make me feel good, and whatever he does tell me is because he wants the best for me, and I may not like it or appreciate it in the moment, but at the end of the day, I know anything that he tells me is from the heart, and it's because he sees potential in me, or otherwise he just wouldn't say anything to me at all. As far as stability goes, I would say that it's definitely comforting to know that I'm surrounded by a group of coaches, not just with Coach Todd, that are going to be there for this year and next year, and just for times to come. And even after I graduate, and wherever my endeavors do take me, I know that they're all people that I can make a phone call, and they'll give me their best advice or do whatever they can to help me get to where it is I desire to get to.
Cool. So for those out there listening and watching that don't know, I did the play-by-play for Keshaun's junior and senior year of high school up at Orangeville Prep. So, I watch some nights you fill it up, 35, 40 points. And then other nights you're a ball distributor getting guys involved. Obviously a bit of a different role, at the college level. You're not going to get the kind of shots you got at the high school level. So how do you maintain that shooter's mentality when you don't get as many shots? You know what I mean? Is it still there? I mean, is it still on your mind? I could put a 40 tonight if I had the shots, or is it I've accepted maybe I'm a different kind of player? Where's your mindset with that?
I think it's a bit of both. Uh, in life, there's things that you may feel like you're capable of. But when it comes down to it, if you have a job, they're going to tell you to do a specific thing, and that's what you're going to get paid to do. So I kind of have the same approach as that with basketball. There's obviously things that I'm capable of doing in terms of getting players involved or being able to score the ball. But at the end of the day, I think it would be a discredit to myself to look at myself as somebody that can only score the ball or somebody that can only pass the ball. So in terms of the mentality, it's always going to be there just because that's the confidence that I have within myself. And that's what I know that I have the potential to do. But also at the same time, I know that, there can't be like 12 Supermans on the team. There has to be some Robins, there has to be some mechanics, some plumbers that have to do other things, If one thing isn't working, then nobody can do the role. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I know that I can do things given the opportunity, given the chance to. And I've displayed that on more than a few occasions. But at the end of the day, it's more so just about winning at this level, at the college level. It's more so about winning and what you're willing to do in order to win.
That's a good way of putting it. I love that. That's really good. So, I wasn't even going to ask you about this, but you mentioned treating it like a job. College athletes allowed to get paid, the name, image, and likeness coming in. I mean, obviously, I know you're not the quarterback at Alabama, or, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but Toledo is still a pretty good, college basketball team. Have you or any of your teammates been able to benefit from that? And if so, I mean, how does that change relationships with teammates? Maybe if one guy's getting a few bucks and some of the other guys aren't.
Um, I have not. So international players are actually not allowed to benefit from this
Really?
rule in the States. But if somebody in Canada wants to build a partnership with any one of us, I think that's still available. And the reason for that being is just for the F1, like our student visas.
Okay.
They basically just indicate that we can't, make money from our name or whatever. I don't know how it goes specifically. But no one on this team has benefited from the NIL as of yet. But however, my old teammate Marion Jackson, he's at Arizona State. He's been able to market himself and create a little bit of partnerships with certain brands. And, you know, even if that does happen with any one of my teammates, it's like at the end of the day, you're working for it, right? So like I can't look at somebody and feel like I should be deserving of getting that same opportunity that they put themselves out there to market themselves and advertise themselves. And they chose, the company has chosen one of my players. I see it as a victory for, you know, just the program. It's marketing the program at the end of the day.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't realize that, Canadians or international players, that doesn't come into effect for them. So
I hate that. I hate that.
that's crazy. I mean, you got to think, some of the, a lot of big recruits coming out of Canada. I mean, you look at a kid maybe like Elijah Fisher in the future.
Right. But
Coming
like I said, though, there's still companies that can reach out to them from
Yeah.
Canada that would be able to let him benefit off of his name.
Mm.
And Elijah Fisher's a great example, you know, because he goes to all these prestigious events. He's about to be, you know, ranked on ESPN and all these other things. So there's definitely going to be companies in Canada that want to grow and expand their market even to the States, and him being in the States by the time that's available to them is going to be a great opportunity for both sides.
So for those out there listening that aren't familiar with Elijah Fisher, Keshaun and I both Canadians. Elijah is, I mean, I've been calling his games. He's probably about 17 now, and he's the number one rated recruit coming out of Canada. What is he? I mean, he's at 23. I don't even know what he is. Like he's at 23.
I'm not even sure what class he is, to be honest with you.
So he's a kid that you all need to get familiar with. Had a good performance with the U19s and for Canada this summer. And Shaden Sharp, another kid from Canada, who I called his games of the futures game, and he's one of the top recruits coming out next year. So I know he's making a decision sometime in the next couple of days. I saw him
sometime soon. Yep, and he actually is number one for his class as well. He is number one.
Yeah. So that Canadian thing is going to come into play for a few people. So you mentioned Marion Jackson there. I was going to get to it in a few questions, but since you mentioned him, we'll go to that. Now, Marion, one of my favorite players in college basketball last year, and I watched quite a bit of Toledo. I'm always watching, keeping an eye on my Orangeville guys, supporting. And so just talk to me about, what you learned being around a guy like that. That's a guy that's going to get a chance, definitely. I don't know if he's going to get drafted. He's going to get a look probably in Summer League and certainly to play in Europe. What did you learn being around a guy like Marion Jackson over the past couple of years?
He definitely took me under his wing from when I did just get here. And honestly, even though I did come from a winning program at Orangeville Prep, I would say winning at the collegiate level is completely different. And he definitely showed me what it takes, and he set a good example of his work ethic to get to where he's at right now in the position that he was able to put himself in. And I think that's more important than anything that you could teach anybody. And with that being said, he's also like my brother. He's my big bro. And, the relationship that I have with him is still close. I still talk to him every day. So, that's still my guy.
So he MAC Player of the Year, I believe, this year, wasn't he?
MAC Player of the Year, yes, sir.
Yeah. So, what's funny? Whenever you see transfers happening, a lot of guys, you're like, what's he doing? What's he thinking? Guy like Marion, he put in his 4 or 5 years at Toledo. This guy's put the work in, and getting a little kind of, a carrot at the end of his career going to a place like Arizona State. You can't really fault a guy like that for making a move.
Not at all. Not at all. At the end of the day, everybody just wants to do what they think is best for themselves. And if you think that's the decision that you want to make, I'll never downplay you or look at you any different for you choosing yourself. You know what I mean? But as much as I would like to have him back here, and as much as I do miss him, I do wish him the best. And I believe he's going to see the league one way or another. If he gets drafted or if he ends up getting a summer league gig or any which way, he's going to get it, because he doesn't stop. He works hard. So I definitely believe in him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's got a legit shot, getting drafted. You go look at some of the guys that got drafted, right? And then, there's college winners. You look at a guy like Cameron Krutwig out of Loyola Chicago, 2 Final Fours in his career, and he doesn't get drafted. And so, but I think a guy like Krutwig is going to make his way to the league. And same thing with Marion, man. I'm a huge fan, and I know he's just got that toughness, make shots in key points of the game, and not afraid to take that shot either.
Not afraid to take him, yep.
Yeah. So that being said, one of the things that I really admire about your career is you've taken a little bit of more of an old school approach, to your career. You went down there, you redshirted your first year. You don't see that a lot with guys. And then, had a, Mac all freshman team. And then even this past year, your minutes decreased by 5 minutes a game. Now, obviously, the guys out there playing in front of you, it's hard to kind of, kick and scream when you're the number one team in the conference.
Right.
But when you see guys kind of bouncing around, transferring and this and that, some guys, I've seen guys on 4 college teams in a career. You've been stuck. This is your 4th year now at Toledo. Just talk about your mindset of like, no, I kind of like it here, or ever thought creep in your mind of ever about transferring, anything like that?
I mean, if you look at my resume, I've never been the type of guy to bounce around anywhere. I played for CIA Bounce for I don't know how many years. I stuck it out, wrote it out with them. Stayed at Orangeville Prep. I never been the type of person to jump ship, and just leave when I felt like it was necessary for me to leave. And, I think that's the biggest thing about me. In terms of thinking about transferring, I never really had the thought of it, just because, regardless of my minutes decreasing or whatever, I feel like I still played an extremely, extremely important role in the team that we just had this previous year. And with that being said, I was still just a vote off from being 6th man of the year for the MAC. So I was never complaining. I never felt a way about the role that I had. The guys that are in front of me, they earned it at the end of the day. And also, like, they're my brothers. And I was winning with my brothers. So, like, it was definitely nothing for me to complain about. And that's the same way that I feel right now as well.
So, you mentioned CIA Bounce and that, and, you were a BioSteel All-Canadian, 3 times, I believe?
Yeah.
And so, some of the guys you've played with, guys in the NBA, I'm sure you've played with Josh Primo, just got drafted by San Antonio earlier, and, guys like O'Shea Brissett and that. I mean, what do you think when you see some of these guys you grew up with playing in the league, and, maybe talk about some of the guys who, I knew when he was 12, this guy was going to get to the league, and maybe some other guys that maybe surprised you getting there?
It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people that I can bring up, but a lot of them, for the most part, like, I'll say happy birthday to Nikhil, by the way. It's his birthday.
Nikhil Alexander
guys,
Nikhil
Alexander Water, happy birthday to him. But it's a lot of guys that, that I've seen from a young age. I've known Nikhil since I was about 9 or 10. Guys like Iggy, Simi, Marcus Carr, he's about to go to the league, God willing, but all of these guys I've looked at from a young age, and you just look at some people and know that they have the it factor and they have what it takes to get to the level. But with that being said, somebody that did surprise me personally is Josh Primo, and I used to train with him. My dad and his dad have a great relationship with each other. He grew about 6 inches in like a year. And then from there, he kind of just took off. And then when he went to Basketball Without Borders, it's kind of when everything, kind of blew up for him. And, it's great for him, you know what I'm saying? But everybody that I know at the next level, I most definitely had a feeling or itch that I thought that they were going to get to that level eventually.
Yeah, I'm same thing with Josh as well, and not to knock him, he's an outstanding player.
Not to knock him out, he's amazing, but
Yeah.
the growth spurt that he had within like a year and a half is just impeccable, incredible.
Yeah, I called a couple of his games. When he was at Lincoln Prep, and then in the BioSteel's future, and I thought Josh is no doubt he's going to play college basketball for a really good program. And when I heard he went to Alabama, no surprise. But when I, coming out year one and getting drafted that high, I was like, it was really surprising to me, And like I said, he's a kid, great young man, really nice player. But yeah, and so that's kind of the, you're looking guys like that getting drafted doesn't really have the resume of Marion that we talked about. It's a different kind of thing, But hey, the more Canadians in the league, the more better, right?
The more the Canadians, the better. It's just, I feel like it's just letting Americans know that, we're not anything to be played with, like, I think they think that because we're from Toronto or we're from Canada that it's like we're not as talented, we're not as tough as they are. I don't know what the issue is or what the perception may be, but it definitely just shows that, we're as effective or maybe even more.
So speaking of that, we're on the topic of being Canadian. Playing for the men's national team, anywhere in your future, is that crossed your mind?
As of right now, no, and that is just because it's not my focus. I'm just focused on trying to get to the tournament, man. It's my fourth year, so that's the main focus right now, and just working towards that and becoming a more effective player for this program at the moment.
And you also mentioned your dad, Richard, who I know a little bit, from up at the Orangeville games, and he's won a couple national championships himself as a college player. So one, how
Yes,
often does
sir.
he remind you of that? And two, what kind of an influence has your father been, on your career growing up?
What's crazy is he never ever mentions it ever at all.
Really?
Yep, he never ever really mentions it, not at all. But the influence that he's had on me, I think, is incredible. And when I think about it, a lot of it just had to do with me liking basketball. I don't think he ever really put the ball in my hand. It was just something that I gravitated towards. But the way he influenced me in terms of him pushing me and wanting the best for me as a basketball player is something that I feel like a lot of people didn't have from a father figure. And that's not to, knock them or anything along those lines. But I think that just goes to show how much my dad, loves me and wants the best for me. Because there's a lot of things that he did for me and also did for other players that weren't even his kids, you know what I mean? That people can come to me and say that my dad is like the greatest thing, he just getting a whole bunch of compliments just about how good of a person my dad is. When it comes to the sport of basketball, it just shows you how passionate he is and just how much he wants for me.
Cool. So for those that don't know, I love Mac basketball, and like I said, I've watched quite a bit over the past couple of years. I've been down, to see quite a few games in person. It's getting a little bit more challenging with border closures and all that stuff. But for those, that kind of only watch ACC or Big 12 games, explain to them what Mac basketball is all about and the culture of it.
I think the MAC, I think talent-wise, the MAC is as good as anybody in the country. Um, we have real good players, skilled, a lot of guards. I think that's what the biggest thing with the MAC is. It's a lot of guards that can score the ball. You think about people that came out, Marion Jackson, Trey Fletcher, Michael Flowers, Eugene German, who was just in the G League for the Nuggets. It's a lot of good players that have come out the MAC, and majority of them have been guards that have gotten to the next level. So I would say the majority of the culture is that. I think the only difference between the MAC and higher majors is just, I guess, the size. But other than that, I don't think it's much of a drop off.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I always call it's a man's league. You don't see a
Yeah,
lot of 18, 19-year-old kids out there like you would in the SEC or the ACC or some of the big. It's men out there kind of playing and just a lot tougher basketball.
right.
Wanted to chat in just about like life in Toledo. Guy growing up in Canada. You've been down in Toledo for a couple of years. Adjustments at first, and what do you love about being in the Toledo and just in Ohio compared to being in Canada?
So I'm from Brampton, but Brampton's close to Toronto, so I've spent like obviously a lot of my life just going back and forth between those two. I think the biggest difference is that Toledo's a lot slower. With that being said, like there's not much to do. Like it's not boring, but it's not much to do. And I've grown to like that. I think because I'm an only child for one. I like my solitude. I kind of like being by myself. Um, and it makes it a lot easier for you to focus on yourself as an athlete and as a student. There's not as much distractions as there may be at other schools or anything like that. And also because there's not much to do, it kind of forces you to be social and build relationships with other people as well. So I think I've gotten out of my shell a lot with that, being able to network and meet new people and make new friendships and relationships with people that I would have. Thought I would ever meet. But I think when it comes to Toledo, that's my favorite part about it.
So
Oh, and the food as well. I love the food over
yeah,
here too. Yeah,
no doubt. Yeah, the size is just a lot bigger down there. You know, I've been down.
everything is bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So media communications major, am I correct?
Yes.
So, is that kind of where you see yourself headed, getting, in front of the camera as you progress, once your basketball playing days are done?
Um, to be honest with you, I've been doing a bit of both at school regarding my major. I've been in front of the camera and I've been behind it as well. In terms of my plans, I don't really have a set goal on what I want to do specifically. I just know that I want to be able to be around the game of basketball for as long as I can be around it. And I can picture myself, being somebody that's in front of the camera, just speaking about anything regarding any type of sports, but that's definitely what I want to do when the game is done.
Cool. So, we talked about Marion Jackson leaving, and you got Ray J. Dennis coming in from Boise State this year. Pretty nice player. Just your thoughts on, if you had the chance to be around him in the gym, early thoughts on him as your new teammate?
Gym rat, a big gym rat. Got great feel for the game, plays with great pace. He's taller than Marion. He's about 6'3" ish, 6'4" ish. So, he has some good size to him. And he's a great guy. That's my bro. You know what I mean? I'm definitely excited to be on the court with him and to win some games with him.
Cool. And Keshaun, I'm thankful for your time. Blessed that you could do this with me. Last question. Hey, 21-9 last year, MAC regular season champs. Goals for the rest of the season. How do you top that?
Go to the tournament. That's definitely that's all there can be for real. I think we're definitely taking it at like a day at a time, and our goal is to win the MAC championship before we go to the tournament. But at the end of the day, every school wants to go to the tournament, So I think there's no better way to top your previous season than to aim for that, right?
Amen. Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, appreciate you. Like I said, I've been following your career ever since Orangeville, and always rooting for you. And hopefully, if we do get to that tournament, let's connect again and do this again come
For
March.
sure. For sure. Thank you.
All right, Keshaun, good to talk to you again, man.
Good to talk to you too.